anyone that's doing these sort of races, they're not really sane. Read some descriptions of the course, got my maps, good to go. Turn around. That is not an owl. That is not an owl. Don't look at the owl. Don't run towards the owl. Really tight. Because the boat was like, boom, boom, boom. And fortunately, I was sitting at the back. Where are you? I'm like, I had to have time out and have a meltdown and lost my temperature at the sand. I had this complete meltdown. Delirious W.E.S.T does 350 kilometres of the Bibbulmun track, which is a 1,000k hiking track from Perth to Albany. It ended up taking me 3.5 days, so 76 hours. I didn't really know how it would go. I've never run that far. It's twice as far as my longest race to date. So I figured I'd just start and see how it went. Hopefully I'd finish, but I don't know what happens over 3.5 days. Anyone that's doing these sort of races, they're not really sane. A lot of the people there were first time 200 mile runners, because there was only, or as far as I know, there's only one other trail race in Australia that does the 200 mile distance, and that's a lap race. So this is the only point to point race in Australia that covers that distance. So most people are there for the first time. They've done 100 milers, they want to see what they can do. Where do you go from 200 miles? For me, it's the Werner Back Paddock Ultra, which is the last man standing event. So 6.5k laps on the hour every hour. Same as Big Dog's backyard over in the States. Maybe something like that. See how many days I can last running around a paddock. It's just completely crazy. I haven't hit a limit of how far I can run, so I just want to keep going until I hit my limit. The peak weeks were probably the last 2 months, so particularly a bit over a month out from the actual race, and they peaked at about 150 to 180 odd Ks, and a lot of it was double runs on the weekends. So when I'm not working, it's back-to-back 50s, Saturday 50Ks, Sunday 50Ks, a lot of time on the feet. Through the week, mostly hill work, track work, easy runs, whatever works really. The long runs, it's very easy pace, so none of them are, sometimes I'll step it up a little towards the end of the long run. Runs are all pretty easy pace. It's more about time on the feet rather than hitting a particular pace. So it's kind of being able to maintain running for 8 hours straight, or run hiking if it's technical or particularly hilly or something like that. Every so often it'll step it up towards the end, like try and finish strong, but mostly it's just consistent, getting up the Ks, getting the time. For the race itself, I watched a lot of hikers' videos that have hiked the Bibbulmun track, and there was also a really good podcast where they described in detail, and they'd done some of the same track section that I was running. They'd hiked it, so they were describing like what the track's like. When they did, it was all flood, so part of it's quite commonly flooded. It just happened that when the race was on, it was super dry, so there was no water. You could actually see on the course, like through where the water would have been, but that was alright. But yeah, I did a lot of research, YouTube and podcasts on what the course was like. Some of the hikers were having run-ins with snakes. That was exciting. Facebook group was having this meltdown about snakes and how deadly all the snakes were. I wanted to check that like Western Australian snakes aren't actually worse than Eastern Australian snakes. They're not. They're just snakes. So I did actually message someone there and ask, are your snakes worse? The reply was no. Read some descriptions of the course, got my maps, good to go. It's the same as any race. When you're standing at the start line, you don't know what's going to happen, you know it's a very long way. You don't want to start too hard, but at the same time you got this energy, so you've got to start hard. You just know that that's going to happen, and then hopefully you can rein it in after a few Ks so you don't use up all your energy. It took me about 30 Ks maybe to rein it in, but I reined it in eventually. And yeah, a lot of nerves, eyeing off all the other competitors, like, you know, do they look like they can run 200 miles? Am I going to go better than them? Are they going to beat me? Like, do I have it all my gear? The aid stations varied between 10 to, I think the longest one was high 20, so 10 to 30 kilometres between the aid stations. And the support crew could get to different ones, so initially, unless you had a four-wheel drive or were willing to drive a really long way, your support crew couldn't get to you till about 8 or 9 kilometres in. So that's when I first ran into my support crew. And after that, there was a couple of four-wheel drive ones that they just couldn't get into. But it kind of doesn't matter, because going into the aid stations, they have all the supplies, they have the water, they have all sorts of wonderful food to eat. Yeah. Probably the best part. So there was this ferry ride across the Denmark Inlet, and we got there and I was expecting like a normal ferry, like the one you see at Wiseman's Ferry, Brow Waters or something like that. Anyway, it was a tinny, had 3 seats, and it was terrifying. Yeah, I got really tight because the boat was like boom, boom, boom. And fortunately I was sitting at the back of the boat, so it wasn't too bad. But the two up the front, they were holding on for dear life. The other runner is pacer. And then of course it couldn't actually get into the other side, so it dumped us 75 meters offshore, and we had to wade in through the mud and the weeds. So that was actually pretty good fun. What was the other bit? Oh, there was a part. There was one of the mountains. It was called Monkey Rock. I think it might be Mount Halliwell was the actual mountain, but it actually looks like this giant ape made out of rocks sticking out the top of the mountain. And so you climb up this hike up the mountain, super steep hike up, and then the boulders are just enormous. And you go across, and there's just more and more of these giant boulders of all different shapes, and that was pretty spectacular. I like that part. I definitely had to talk to myself to stay awake on that third night, though. I became my own personal trainer. Like, you've got this, you can do it, come on. It's only 9.5 more Ks to the next aid station. Constantly. For however long it took me to get to the aid station. Most of the other riders had pacers. Everyone in front of me had a pacer. The pacer would have been good of a night because they would have kept me awake and kept me focused. So instead I paced myself like, you've got this, you're going great, come on. Don't turn around, that is not an owl. That is not an owl, don't look at the owl, don't run towards the owl. Focus on what you're going for. I saw a lot of animals. They weren't really there. They turned into trees when I got closer, so I'm quite sure. You know, like pareidolia, where you see a human face in something? So it's like that, an extreme form of that, where I'll see people, but it's just a tree that kind of looks like a person from afar. But the thing is that my brain doesn't translate to a tree until I'm really, really close, even though I'm sure, I know it's not a person standing on the track. But I can't convince my brain of that. It just keeps on thinking there's a person standing on the track. And same with hearing voices, like it'll be the ocean or a brook or the wind, say, and it sounds like voices, just mumbling, like you're hearing them from a distance, but it's not. I actually used energy drinks this race. It's the first time, because I was having so much trouble staying awake, and I tried no-dose pills, did nothing. Tried to fall asleep. I used the Revies, they weren't too bad. So the Revies they kept me awake a bit, but someone else had an energy drink, I thought it was a great idea, so picked up a 4-pack of those during the race. Mum got them from the local IGA, and yeah, it took me like 3 aid stations to drink one, but helped. The thing that happened was I was 100% convinced I'd done the track before, like 100%. I was coming into the aid stations towards the end saying, I'm sure I've done this, have we hiked this, have I run this, have we been here before? And Mum, who was support crewing me, is going, we've never been here, we've never done any of this, and I couldn't get it out of my head that I was completely convinced that I'd been there. I talked to another ultramarathon and he's had the same experience, so I suspect there's more people that just become so convinced that they've been on that course in the past. I actually had a temper tantrum about 5 k's from the finish because my shoes had got full of sand again. It was hot and I was on another sandy track, and Mum's texting me going, where are you? I'm like, I had to have time out and have a meltdown and lost my temper at the sand. I had this complete meltdown. So I probably could have finished it an hour earlier if I had to sit down and go, this is shit. And yeah, I ended up calling her and just having a bit of a whinge, and then I finished the race. People get emotional out there because you're awake for so long. Your brain's not working right. It's not working right at all. Like, I think people deal with it different ways. Mine's to just completely fall apart for, I don't know, 15 minutes or so, and then to pull it all back together, but just to let myself completely just have that meltdown, and then go, gotta keep running, I gotta finish eventually. But it's like, otherwise, I don't know, it just works for me, just let myself go wild. In most of the milers, I've had some sort of meltdown at some stage. Maybe, I think because I was so close to the finish, and I didn't have anyone either side of me, so if I have someone to chase, or someone chasing me, I can push harder. Because there was hours either side, and I had nothing to draw on, and there was sand, so much sand, it was all in my shoes, it was so hot, I was on an unsandy track, there was no shade, and then I had to finish on a bike track, and I've just lost it. So yeah. Anyway, not the race's fault. I had some time out. I was good. I finished.